So, welcome to episode 3 of Interview with a Schizophrenic. Today I have Don with me. He is from Kathleen in Georgia. Hello, Don. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Doing good.
Great. Okay, so Don, tell me, what was the origin of your mental health problems? What were you diagnosed with schizophrenia straight away, or did you have other conditions diagnosed first? What happened at the beginning, if you'd like to tell us?
Um, so in the beginning, I was in the army.
Yeah,
I just got sent home from basic training. I'd had injuries to my legs,
yeah,
and during the time period, I became very secluded. I really didn't
yeah,
talk that much to people. I pretty much shut down, and
yeah,
I just assumed, okay, it's just basic depression or something like that. Not a big deal. Um, but then as time went on, eventually I started seeing people from the military coming into my room and like taking things from my room and stuff like
Are
that.
you serious?
Yeah, and it was terrifying. I mean, I ended up waking up my parents, freaking out. I was scared because I was like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And eventually, I went and saw a doctor for it. And once I did, they're just like, they had me do tests, asked about the symptoms, and in the end, they're just like, hey, this looks like schizophrenia.
Do you think it was in part due to some trauma you had when you were in the army?
Um, no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've lived in the military most of my life.
Yeah.
I went through ROTC for quite a few years in high school and stuff. I was pretty prepared for it. Um, I don't know. I think I just got unlucky. you know.
Well, I mean, I think certain people are predisposed
Oh
to
yeah.
to the condition. So yeah, I mean, statistically it remains the same throughout history. There's
Yeah.
always 100 people around that figure have schizophrenia.
hmm
So the statistics stay the same. So yeah. So so how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I think I was um, probably late 18.
Oh,
Late
really?
18.
That's quite young. I think that's quite young.
Yeah. I was late 18 whenever it was first tossed around uh, that that's probably what the diagnosis was. Unfortunately, I kind of ran away from that. I was fearful of the idea of being diagnosed with it. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of push it down and hopefully it goes away,
So what did you do? Were you what did you do when you were diagnosed? I mean, because did you work? Did you have a job? I mean, what was your what were you, like you say you hid away from it? What
Uh,
what did
well,
you
it
do?
was it was a mess. The first 2 years right after the initial diagnosis was a mess. I ended up running away from the army. Um, the army contacted me and said, "Look, you can't just disappear. You can't just not show up." But I was so scared. I was so scared
Yeah,
of what was going on. Eventually, they ended up discharging me out.
yeah,
Um, and then at that point, I was like, okay, I've got to find a job. So I did a bunch of little knickknack jobs here and there, but you know, it seemed like no matter what I did, eventually the sickness would come back. And when it did, every time it ruined whatever job I was in or any type of stability I really had.
yeah. Okay, fine. So so I was gonna say, yeah. So what? Tell me about what that you. Oh yeah. What I was gonna say is you sound very well. You sound erudite. You sound clear-headed. You sound very well now.
Yeah,
Um, so you've gone obviously through a recovery, haven't you?
yeah.
What?
It's it after so many years of having it, I've learned to adapt to it a lot better.
Yeah.
Especially from when I was younger. I mean, when I like I said, those first 2 years, I mean, I was in and out of homelessness.
Oh, really?
I was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol to try to ignore the problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I met my wife and I finally decided, okay, it's time to really kind of sober up and
Yeah.
try to figure this out.
So are you affected today? Do you still have symptoms? Is this something that's ongoing for you?
Yes. If I get too stressed out, if I haven't had enough sleep in an extended period of time,
Yeah.
um, if there's very loud noises consistently, it can cause me to get sick pretty quick. And then, sometimes even if none of those things happen, sometimes it just starts up. I mean, it can happen. But now I'm better equipped to deal with it than I was back then. That's for sure.
So you've got a family, you've got a wife, you've got a young child. I think that gives you a strong motivation, a reason to um, to do well in life. To see the positive side. Um, I mean, I think that's great because that's when you have schizophrenia, sometimes you can just fall down the cracks. But so you've got a strong motivation there. I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It absolutely was key, and it still is to this day. Support is everything. It really is. I mean, without support, it's so easy to just give up. And with having the wife, having the kid, it makes it to where I got to kind of look at the big picture and say, yeah, it sucks that I'm in the situation I am with it, but you kind of have to deal with the cards that you're dealt.
Yeah, man. That's strong stuff, man. I gotta say. So, okay, what I want to talk about. Why don't we talk about some of your delusions, maybe?
Uh huh.
Um, have you got any stories to tell about that sort of thing?
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's
Okay, okay. You told me on email that you had some funny, scary stories.
oh yeah, yes.
So, I mean, for people who don't know, a paranoid delusion is when you have a psychotic break from reality where you disappear into another world. Usually, and it can be very frightening. You can believe things which are not happening, and it's as a person with schizophrenia, it absolutely feels real, and it can be terrifying. So, what sort of things have you? Well, give me a scary one, man.
Scary ones are, oh man, they are rough. So, scary ones were, there was a time period where I had thought that for sure people were trying to kill me. I
Yeah.
thought without a doubt there were no people obviously trying to do that, but in your mind, when these delusions are hitting you, you
Mm,
think no matter what, it's just absolutely true.
mm,
And it gets frightening. I mean, you'll lock the doors, and I've had times where I've put furnitures up against the doors and the windows to make sure people couldn't get in the house to get me.
yeah.
And sometimes it gets to where when it's in that kind of situation, like I was saying before, you really need someone there to kind of help pull you out of it. Kind of
Put you
snap you
back
back
into
to reality.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've actually in my past I actually used to put the key when I used to go to sleep. I used to put the key in the front door and turn it a quarter so
Mm,
that nobody, because I used to think people would unlock my door from the outside.
mm,
So
yeah.
I think I can I can see where you're coming from there. So when was the last time you had a severe delusion?
Um,
Um,
I guess the last time I really had a like really bad issue was about a year ago. I
okay.
was hospitalized,
Oh,
and
really?
I was absolutely just scared of everyone. I'm a person that when it gets to that point, I'm so frightful that I may stop eating because I'm afraid people are like poisoning my food. Um, I won't talk to anyone because I'm afraid that they're maybe taking notes on me or recording my conversations. And when I got sent to the hospital, the nurses felt bad because I refused to sit in the bed. I was hiding in a corner. I had like barricaded myself in the corner in the room, and
Mm,
they. But the good thing was, the hospital was nice. They really tried to accommodate me, and
yeah.
I let them know I was like, look, I'm not aggressive in any way. I'm just terrified. I'm
Yeah.
scared that everyone's out to get me right now, and I just need to get past this.
Just talking about the hospital, what is the medical situation like over there? Because I'm in London, and
Mhm.
if you get sick in London and it's very difficult to be admitted to hospital, what is, in Kathleen, where, when you needed to go to a place of shelter into hospital to
Mhm.
see have medical care, what was that process like? I mean,
It's
were you know,
it can be interesting. It's hit and miss depending on the hospital you go to. Obviously, I've had a couple that I went to in Oklahoma, and one of the ones in Oklahoma was amazing. They let you go outside. You were actually able to be out, like, out in the sun. You were able to talk to your family and have visits. It
Mhm,
really felt nice being there, and it helped a lot with the recovery. But I've
mhm.
also had ones where it's pretty much like a prison. I mean, you get locked away into a room. Someone comes in occasionally and they give you some medicine and they take your vitals, and that's it. That's the interaction you get for the day.
How do you feel about other people's perception of your illness? I mean,
Um,
tell me about that. What is your experiences?
well, I try to be open, as open about it as I can with everyone. A lot of people are scared.
Mm,
They read the news and all they hear is about people doing crazy things and hurting themselves or others. And my whole thing is, it can get rough. Don't get me wrong. There are those bad times where things are scary. But I try to let them know, it's not always like that. If people were there to help us, support us, be there for us, you would see a lot less of these dangerous symptoms.
yeah, but I know in the paper over here we see. I don't know if you remember that Anders Breivik in Norway. He was supposed to have been diagnosed schizophrenic, and he
Mhm.
went, kill everybody. Occasionally in the news, say about once every 2 or 3 months, there'll be a story about a schizophrenic who's killed a load of people.
Oh yeah,
Uh, it's kind of like because you don't. That's the press that you see. You don't see schizophrenic won art prize for best drawing. You don't see the opposite side. Do you know what I
yep,
mean? It's always the negative side, and so there's a negative side, and there's the ignorance as well, which I
yes,
don't think does much for our cause, basically.
yeah. It
So,
definitely doesn't help. A lot of people really don't know the illness. They hear about it, but when I tell them and explain to them what it's like having this kind of sickness, a lot of people are just like, "Wow, I never really knew it was like that." They either assume it's like split personality disorder or something like that,
mhm.
or they just automatically assume that you're just some psycho who needs to be locked away.
Yeah.
And I'm
Do
like,
you,
it's not always chaos and scariness.
do you ever have fun with it? Do you ever, play it up a little bit? See
Oh, there's
see that, like you say, let's
there's
say to be the psychos.
there's well there was it can be kind of funny sometimes because here in the United States, a lot of the
Yeah.
mental hospitals have people that are recovering from drugs.
Yeah.
And they'll put us together, and we really don't
Yeah.
know who's just recovering from drugs and who's there because they're having mental problems. So,
Mm,
you'll notice that a lot of the people that are recovering from the drugs or the alcohol will drink coffee all day. And
mm,
when I first got admitted into my most recent stay about a year ago, I drank coffee for the first morning just to kind of wake up. And
yeah.
so a lot of the people that were recovering from drugs came over and were sitting around me, and they were like, "Oh man, I'm recovering from this or that." And I was like, "Oh, these people seem nice." But bear in mind,
Mm,
I was still sick at the time.
uh,
So unfortunately, with all the noise of people talking and of course the voices that were going on in my head, I
yeah.
got very frustrated, and I just kind of like I got irritated, and I was like, I need everyone to be quiet because I can't keep all the voices from that are real and that aren't real. I can't really tell which ones are which at this point. And all the
Yeah.
people around me at that point realized, oh, he's one of the guys that are here for a mental issue, and they were really quick, all scared. They were like, okay, let's kind of shift to the other side.
Yeah. So tell me about your voices. You just mentioned it there. Um, tell me what sort of, tell me just tell me about your voices. Let me try and understand.
It's chaotic.
Yeah.
They have evolved over time. When I was first sick, they would try to be people I know. Like they would imitate my wife, my family members, and stuff like that. They would like to play games. They would trick me to go into other rooms,
Mm,
mock me, make fun of me. Since
mm,
then, it's changed now to where it's a lot more chaotic when I hear the voices.
yeah.
They It's a lot of them. I mean, when it happens, it feels like there's like 20, 30 people all trying to have a conversation with you and they're all fighting to
Serious.
cut each other off.
And what? Okay, you talk about this illness as a sickness. So what is your ex? Do you have any? Do you just see the voices as just being due to a malfunctioning brain? I mean, or do you have? We're not going to go into delusions, but are we all schizophrenics have explanations, right?
Yeah.
So what? How do you see the voices? What do you see them as?
Um, the voices are pretty easy for me. I just see it as an issue with the brain. I mean, obviously something's went wrong.
Yeah,
Um, I obviously don't know to what extent, but I think it's definitely a brain issue. Um, the voices for me are a lot more manageable than the
yeah,
delusions. The voices I've now learned, if I start hearing them, I can listen to loud music. That helps out
yes.
a lot to kind of drone them out. Um,
Mm,
and just anything I can to keep my mind focused. I might play a video game. It helps me to really just zone in on what I need to do. And so I'm not so focused on what they're saying.
yeah. You like video games, right?
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I just wanted to. Have you seen? Have you got Netflix?
Yes, yeah.
Have you seen the show Maniac?
I don't think I have.
Oh, okay, okay, fine. Well, it's got Emma Stone and that guy from Superbad, that fat kid from Superbad. I can't
Yeah.
remember his name. Well, he's slim in Maniac, and
Mhm.
it's a program about schizophrenia. It's obviously it's a drama, but it's quite. I was just one, how do you see schizophrenia portrayed in the media? I mean, because
Um,
there's not much about it. Because the reason I brought up Maniac because I thought I watched that last year and I thought it was amazing, and it really made me feel, yeah, this is good. This is like a positive. Makes us look like as if we're having a hard time, but there's a meaning to it, and there's something beautiful at the end.
oh, yeah.
There's not there's not much out there like in film and TV. I mean, how do you see that?
I I think that I think there's a couple movies that do a good job on it. A Beautiful Mind is
Yes.
one that comes to me. That was a movie that to me was really relatable early on in my sickness because
Mm,
it really shows a guy that this is a person that went to college. He is
mm,
like a top mind, just some guy who you see has the world ahead of him, and then he's just hit with the illness. It causes his life to go in shambles, but in the end, he's able to over time overcome it and kind of get it maintained. And I think that's something that should be showed to a lot of people that have the illness. A lot of people are scared. They don't know what to do. They think that it's the end. They think there's no way that they'll ever be able to climb out of it. Um, and I mean, don't get me wrong. You're always going to have rough patches, but I
mm.
think those kind of movies are motivational.
Yeah, I think that's what we need. We need that inspiration. That to because I mean I used to go to a day center and it can be kind of depressing that because I think from what I can get with you that you're coping very well. I think you sound great. You've got a good handle on it. I mean, so that's kind of I agree with you. You need to have that inspiration just from out from the world rather than thinking being scared of us. They're thinking, yeah, we're fighting through adversity.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, So yeah, Beautiful Mind. Yeah, that's a good film. Have you seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I don't think I have. I don't believe I have. Um, I know like ones that I've seen that were interesting. Obviously, the more famous, the new Joker movie
Yeah,
was one that I thought kind of pointed it out, and that's obviously on the opposite spectrum. I mean, when you see in that movie, this is a person who's lost his foundation. He doesn't have the help.
yeah,
And when you see these people that in the news do lose their mind and they unfortunately cause some sort of scene or hurt themselves or others, it shows you that without that support, without people there to really help, you know, it can get scary, and it can get dangerous. And I think that was a good movie to show people as well that, you everyone needs someone to lean on. And I think that's a good example of why that's necessary.
yeah, definitely. Because yeah, actually, I did rent that movie and I watched the start of it. And to be honest with me, to be honest with you, it's just a slightly a bit too dark for me. So
Yeah.
I think I can still watch it later on, but I was thinking, oh bloody hell, I don't know if I can handle this. To be honest with
Oh
you,
yeah.
but because it is kind of like that, it does, it's not it's a dark film.
Oh yeah.
You've got to be prepared for it. It's intense.
Absolutely. When I went and saw it in theaters, I did not know it was going to be a movie that was focused around that kind of mental illness.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known it because it was kind of tough to watch. To
Yeah.
see, I tried to look on the positive side of the illness and to
Mm,
see the dark side, as
mm,
pure as it was in that movie, was definitely a shock to the system. But
mm.
I think it is a side that, in a way, does need to be seen, so that people can understand that people need help, and if you don't give them that help, if you don't assist people, this is unfortunately the kind of things that can happen.
Yeah. Can we just quickly talk about your medication?
Mhm.
What types of medication do you take,
Mhm.
and how has that changed over the last 15 years or so?
Um, so when I first got sick early on, I was given large amounts of, I think it was called Seroquel, and
Hmm.
it unfortunately made me kind of like a zombie. I mean, I really was not
Yeah.
able to function. I was just so slow on doing talking and daily tasks and things like that. And eventually, I came off of that medication and got put on a different one, and then a different one, and then a different one. It just we cycled through it. Each one kind of had different side effects that were hard to deal with.
Mm,
Now, don't get me wrong. For some people, the medicine works great, and I
yeah.
am absolutely glad for that. For me, unfortunately, the medicine just didn't. It would numb the effects, but unfortunately, it would also bring some sort of other drastic side effect with it. Nowadays, I take CBD oil, and that helps out tremendously
Do
with
you take,
dealing.
but that CBD oil is the extract from the cannabis plant, which is
Yes,
non-psychoactive.
yes,
And from what I know, its best effect is an anti-anxiety.
yes.
But so, do you take antipsychotic as well, or just a CBD oil?
I do not take any antipsychotics.
Okay,
Uh,
man.
I have not for probably a year and a half now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone should not take medicine.
Yeah,
Definitely, medicine is helpful for certain people.
yeah,
It's just for me, I went through so much of the medicine, and it never really helped the way I wanted it to, for me
yeah,
personally. So, I tried the CBD oil to see if it would help. Now, don't get me wrong, I still get sick. I still have my episodes, but it calms me down enough to really be able to kind of focus to deal with the symptoms at hand.
yeah. Because I know in America you can get a CBD oil is different to medical marijuana, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. different
I
product.
I can't do like actual marijuana, like smoking marijuana or anything like that. The THC factor of it causes my psychosis to go through the roof. It
Mm.
causes way more problems than good. The CBD, it just it relaxes you is the best way of putting it. Doesn't make you high in any way, shape, or form, but it just it calms you down and makes the world kind of a little bit more bearable.
Okay, man, that's great. So that I think we can call it a wrap there. So just I'm gonna play some music at the end here. So I thought I'd play some techno music for you. You can close it here. Um, Thanks for having you on.
Oh yeah,
You sound very strong, man. Very clear, very erudite. Very eloquent.
yeah.
Um, I think you're probably coping the 90% of people out there. You're
Mhm.
coping better than them. So
I mean, it's a big portion of it's just the foundation. My family
yeah,
really knows my illness. They help me when I do get sick. You know what I
yeah.
mean? They know what to do to help deal with it. But yeah, anytime you want to do this again, or
Yeah,
anything.
because I've got a website and I've got a forum on there.
Uh
At
huh.
the moment, this is only episode 3, so not many people have joined, but that will be a place so people can discuss the episodes.
Okay.
So hopefully, when we build an audience,
Mhm.
people will discuss the points raised in each episode. That's kind of what I'm looking for, and it would be fantastic to have you on again. That would be an absolute pleasure.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'd be okay with that.